The grand ballroom of the Hawthorne estate was alive with the soft hum of conversation, the clinking of crystal glasses, and the faint melody of a string quartet playing in the corner. The room was filled with the city's elite, all gathered to celebrate the engagement of Grace Hawthorne, the eldest daughter of the prestigious Hawthorne family. But as the champagne flowed and laughter echoed through the room, Grace stood silently by the window, her fingers tracing the edge of her glass, her mind far away from the festivities. "Grace," her father's voice cut through the noise, commanding attention. He stood at the center of the room, his hand raised to silence the crowd. "I have an important announcement to make." Grace turned, her heart sinking as she met her father's gaze. She knew that tone. It was the same one he used when he was about to deliver news that would change everything. After much consideration, her father continued, his voice steady, "I have decided that the Hawthorne estate will be passed down to your sister, Lily." The room fell silent. Grace felt the weight of every eye in the room on her, but she refused to let her composure slip. She had spent years perfecting the art of hiding her emotions, of smiling through the pain. And so, she did just that. She smiled. "I see," she said softly, her voice calm despite the storm raging inside her. "And you chose my engagement party to make this announcement?" Her father's jaw tightened. "This estate is not just a home, Grace. It's a legacy. And Lily has proven herself worthy of carrying that legacy forward." Grace's younger sister, Lily, stood beside their father, her face glowing with triumph. At 25, Lily had always been the golden child, the one who followed every rule, met every expectation, and never once questioned their parents' decisions. She had joined their father's law firm straight out of college, just as he had always wanted. Grace, on the other hand, had chosen a different path, one that had led her away from the family business and into the world of architecture and urban development. "Lily understands the importance of tradition," her father continued, his voice firm. "She will maintain this estate as it should be maintained, not turn it into one of your modern experiments." Grace took a slow sip of her champagne, her mind racing. She thought of the blueprints hidden in her office, the permits she had secured, the years of work she had poured into her vision. She thought of the property she had quietly acquired, piece by piece, surrounding the Hawthorne estate, property her father had dismissed as worthless. "You're right," Grace said finally, her voice steady. "The Hawthorne estate deserves someone who truly appreciates its value." Her father's eyes narrowed, clearly expecting more of a fight. But Grace had learned long ago that arguing with him was pointless. Instead, she had poured her energy into building something he couldn't ignore. "I'm glad you understand," her father said, though his tone suggested he had been hoping for more resistance. "Lily will take possession next month. We expect you to have any remaining personal items removed by then." Grace nodded, then turned to address the room. "Thank you all for coming tonight. James and I are so grateful to have you here celebrating with us. And now," she paused, her eyes locking with her father's, "I have an announcement of my own." Her father's face darkened. This wasn't part of his script. "James and I won't be moving into the city apartment as planned," Grace continued, her voice calm but firm. "Instead, we'll be living in our new home, the mansion I've spent the last 3 years building. It's right next door to the Hawthorne estate." The silence that followed was deafening. Lily's smug smile faltered as she processed Grace's words. Her father's face turned red as he realized what she had done, what he had failed to notice happening right under his nose. "That's impossible," he sputtered. "All the land around the estate is mine. Every acre," Grace finished for him. "I bought it all while you were too busy doubting my business acumen to notice. The permits are approved, construction is nearly complete, and the Historical Preservation Committee is thrilled with my plans to restore not just one historic property, but to create an entire heritage district." Her mother sank into a nearby chair, her social mask cracking. "You can't be serious." "Oh, but I am," Grace replied, pulling out her phone and bringing up the renderings. "Would you like to see?" The new mansion is actually built using architectural elements inspired by the Hawthorne estate. We're calling it the Hawthorne Heritage Project. It's already been featured in several design magazines. The guests gathered around as Grace showed the images, the sweeping driveways, the carefully preserved trees, the modern mansion that complemented rather than overshadowed its historic neighbor. Every detail had been planned to create something that honored the past while embracing the future. Lily pushed forward, her face flushed with anger. "This is just spite. You're trying to overshadow my gift." Grace turned to her, keeping her voice level.
"No, Lily.
"This is business.
And passion.
And vision. 3 things you and our parents never understood about me. The Hawthorne estate is yours now. Congratulations. I truly hope you maintain it well, because it's going to be a centerpiece of the Heritage Walking Tours starting next spring." "Walking tours," her father choked out. "Of course," Grace said. "The Hawthorne Heritage Project includes plans for historical tourism, educational programs, and community events. The Hawthorne Estate's participation would be wonderful, but not essential. I've already secured partnerships with other historical properties in the area." James wrapped his arm around Grace's waist, pride evident in his expression. He had been her rock through all of this, understanding why she had kept her plans quiet until the right moment. Her parents had always underestimated her, seeing only what they wanted to see. But now, they were seeing the truth, the empire she had built while they were busy doubting her. "You've been planning this for years," her mother said softly, realization dawning in her eyes. "Yes," Grace admitted. "Ever since you first suggested I wasn't capable of preserving our family's legacy, I decided to build my own instead." The engagement party ended shortly after Grace's announcement, having thoroughly disrupted her parents' planned power play. As the guests left, many quietly congratulated her, some even expressing interest in investing in future projects. Her parents and Lily departed without another word, but Grace knew this wasn't over. Standing on the balcony of her office later that night, Grace looked out over the construction site where her new home was taking shape. The Hawthorne estate was visible just beyond, its familiar silhouette a reminder of everything she had fought to achieve. "Are you okay?" James asked, joining her with 2 glasses of wine. Grace took one, leaning into his embrace. "I'm better than okay. For the first time, they saw me."
"Really saw me?"
"Not as their disappointing daughter, but as someone who built something meaningful." "They should have seen that all along," he said. "Maybe," Grace replied. "But if they had, I might not have pushed myself to create all this." Sometimes, being underestimated is the greatest motivation. The lights of her nearly completed mansion twinkled in the darkness, a testament to years of careful planning and hard work. Tomorrow would bring challenges, dealing with her family's reaction, finalizing construction details, preparing for the Heritage Project launch. But tonight, Grace savored the satisfaction of finally revealing her vision. The Hawthorne estate might belong to Lily now, but Grace had built something bigger than a single house. She had created a legacy of her own, one that would benefit not just her family, but the entire community. And that was worth more than any inheritance her parents could give or take away. 3 weeks later, Grace stood in her office, reviewing the final construction details when her assistant announced an unexpected visitor. Her father. Through the glass walls, she could see him standing in the reception area, looking uncomfortable and out of place among the modern decor. "Send him in," Grace said, straightening her shoulders. She had been expecting this visit, though she was surprised it had taken him this long. "Grace," he said stiffly, entering her office. His eyes darted around, taking in the awards lining the walls, the architectural models displayed on sleek shelves, and the commanding view of both his precious Hawthorne estate and her nearly completed mansion. "Dad," Grace replied, gesturing to a chair. "What brings you to my little construction project?" He flinched at having his words thrown back at him, but sat down. "The Historical Preservation Committee contacted me yesterday. Something about scheduled tours and educational programs." Yes," Grace said, pulling up the presentations on her large screen. "We're launching the Heritage District Initiative next month. Several historical properties in the area have already signed on. The Hawthorne estate would be a wonderful addition, but as I said at the party, it's not essential." "You're trying to force our hand," he accused. Grace shook her head, turning to face him fully. "No, Dad. I'm running a business. One that happens to align with preserving local history, something you've always claimed to care about. By building a modern mansion next door, by creating a comprehensive development plan that honors the past while embracing the future, I'm doing exactly that. She showed him the detailed renderings, pointing out how the new construction complemented the historical architecture. See how we've incorporated elements from all the original estates in the area? We're creating a cohesive neighborhood identity. Despite himself, her father leaned forward, his developer's eye catching the details she had so carefully planned. These materials, they're authentic to the period? Yes, Grace said. I spent 2 years sourcing them. The stonework alone. She stopped, seeing something shift in his expression. But you didn't come here to discuss construction details, she said softly. He sat back, running a hand through his silver hair. Lily's having second thoughts about the estate. Is she? Grace kept her voice neutral, though inside, she felt a flicker of satisfaction. The maintenance costs are higher than she expected, he admitted. And with the Heritage District plans, the property value will increase significantly, Grace finished. But so will the responsibilities. Historical property management isn't for everyone. His jaw tightened. You knew this would happen. I knew Lily had never shown any interest in historical preservation beyond using the estate for social media photos, Grace said calmly. Just like I knew the property taxes would increase once the Heritage District was approved. It's all in the development plans, which have been public record for months. A knock at the door interrupted them. James entered, carrying a tablet. Sorry to interrupt, but the Historical Society is here for the site tour. He paused, seeing Grace's father. I can reschedule. No, Grace said, standing. Dad was just leaving. Her father stood slowly, his expression conflicted. The Historical Society, they're very excited about the educational potential of the Heritage District. We're discussing partnerships with local schools and universities, Grace explained. Your mother mentioned you've been working with her women's charity group too. He looked surprised. Yes, we're establishing a scholarship program for students interested in historical preservation and urban development. Mom seemed quite interested when we discussed it last week. This was clearly news to him. You met with your mother? She reached out after seeing the project featured in the local paper, Grace said. She didn't add that her mother had also apologized in her own way for the engagement party debacle. Some things were better left unsaid. James cleared his throat. The contractor also needs your approval on the ballroom restoration plans. Her father's eyes widened. Ballroom. For the cultural center, Grace explained. It's being modeled after the original Hawthorne Estate ballroom. Actually, I always loved that room as a child. Something like regret flickered across her father's face. You used to hide in there during parties, sketching in your notebook. Design concepts mostly, Grace said softly. Ideas for how to preserve the beauty while making it functional for modern use. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words. Finally, her father moved toward the door, then paused. Your mother's charity gala next month. Will the new ballroom be ready by then? Grace exchanged a glance with James before responding. It could be. The space was designed to host exactly that kind of event. I'll tell her to call you, he said, and left before Grace could respond. James waited until the elevator doors closed behind her father before speaking. That was interesting. Indeed, Grace murmured, watching through the window as her father stood outside, staring up at the mansion taking shape next door to his beloved estate. Have Lily's financial records come in? James asked, handing her the tablet. Just as you predicted, he said. She's already looking to take out loans against the property. Grace nodded, unsurprised. Lily had always lived beyond her means, counting on their parents to bail her out. But the estate's maintenance costs would quickly overwhelm her, especially with the new Heritage District regulations. Should we move up the timeline? James asked. No, Grace replied, setting down the tablet. Everything's proceeding exactly as planned. Lily will come to her own conclusions about the estate, and when she does, we'll be ready. She took his hand, squeezing it gently. None of this would have been possible without you believing in my vision. He smiled. Speaking of which, wait until you see the latest updates to the ballroom. We found some original molding patterns in the archives. As James showed her the restoration details, Grace thought about her father's visit. He had come expecting to find fault, to prove his decision to give Lily the estate had been right. And instead, he had found evidence of everything he had refused to see over the years: her dedication, her capability, her respect for their family's history. The Heritage District would succeed whether the Hawthorne estate participated or not. But watching her father realize that she had created something bigger than he had imagined, something that would enhance rather than diminish his precious legacy, was more satisfying than any revenge could have been. Let Lily struggle with the estate's demands. Let her parents grapple with their choices. Grace had built her own legacy, one that would outlast their doubts and validate every dream they had dismissed. The Historical Society members were gathering in the lobby. It was time to show them how the past and future could coexist beautifully, each making the other stronger. After all, that was what true legacy was about, not clinging to tradition, but building on it to create something even more meaningful.